Namaste everyone. Thank you for joining in this video on the various aspects of Saturn and the secret meanings behind those aspects. Okay, so I've done a few videos on aspects covering the various aspects of planets till Jupiter. So you can watch those videos on the channel, which have been uploaded previously, and they are available for public consumption. But before we go to the meat of the topic, kindly subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends and family if you find it useful, and do reach out for a consultation if you want a thorough understanding of your chart or any problem that you may be facing. Okay, so before we go into the secret meanings of Saturnine aspects, we have to first deal with a few basic points that everyone ignores. Okay, so Saturn represents all that which we do not like in our life. Okay, and you will meet your Saturn frequently. For example, say if you are someone who does not like to make his or her bed after waking up in the morning, then that is Saturn. Okay, Saturn is delay, frustration, restriction, limitation, as well as anxiety. It also represents your the environment at your workplace. Okay, Saturn is your karmic debt from past life, and it represents all those things that you did not treat too well in your past life. Okay, Saturn represents your challenges and your lessons of life. Saturn is old age. It represents teeth or bones in human body. It represents diseases, changes. Okay, Saturn also represents step relations. So it means that wherever Saturn sits, people related to that house will give you step treatment. Okay, Saturn is hard work, efforts, and most importantly, perseverance. Okay, nothing comes easy in one go with Saturn. Okay, so it means, if you are under the influence of Saturn, or if you are undergoing a Saturn Mahadasha, you have to work hard continuously. Okay, and Saturn is also the kingmaker. It is the planet that is responsible for producing legends. And what do legends have? They have one thing in common, is that they choose one field and work hard for it their entire life. Okay, now in astrology, Parashara has granted 3 aspects to Saturn. Saturn aspects the 3rd place from its position, the 7th place from its position, and the 10th place from its position. So if Saturn is in the 3rd house, for example, it will aspect the 5th house by its 3rd aspect, the 9th house by its 7th aspect, and the 12th house by its 10th aspect. So every planet has one common aspect, which is the 7th house from itself. So the other 2 aspects, if the outer planets, say Saturn, Jupiter, Rahu, and Ketu, they have 2 special aspects. So in case of Saturn, the 2 special aspects are the 3rd house and the 10th house aspects. Okay, now why has Saturn gotten these special aspects, right? That's why, what are the secret meanings of these additional special aspects of Saturn, right? So to get into that, we have to understand what the 3rd house means, right? The 3rd house, it means the efforts of hard work. It means your efforts that you put to get your work done. And it is an Apachaya house, which means it improves with time. Okay, it also means we need to put lots of efforts and hard work over a long period of time to gain out of the 3rd house matters. And that is what Saturn exactly represents. It represents hard work, it represents efforts as well as perseverance. So hence Saturn gets this 3rd house aspect. Okay, again, 10th house, this is the house of duties and responsibilities. And in the original zodiac, we know that Capricorn falls into the 10th house. Okay, and Saturn rules Capricorn, right? Saturn, Capricorn and the 10th house, it all indicates how you complete work. It all indicates your duties, work, and responsibilities. And because Saturn represents responsibility, Parashara has given it the 10th house aspect. Okay, now before looking at the aspects of Saturn, you have to understand the dignity of Saturn as well. How dignified Saturn is in the chart. And because this dignity of Saturn can change the impact of its aspect on a house in your horoscope. All right, And Saturn, as I said, is all about hard work and perseverance. And mind you, it does not make life easy in any sign, but it can become much more harsh in few other signs. Okay. So what are the signs in which Saturn becomes really harsh? In Aries. Okay. Because Saturn debilitates in Aries. All right. And if Saturn in Aries is not supported by any other yoga or planet, then this person will get success only after the severest of hard work. Okay. And any reluctance of running away from hard work can lead to severe humiliation. All right. Okay, really sorry about that thing. Then comes Saturn in Leo. So this is again a great enemy sign of Saturn, and this is one of the harshest placements that Saturn can have, because it is not only the sign of fire, right, which Saturn spreads, right? Saturn represents the Vayu Tattva. So as Vayu Tattva, it can spread the fire, okay? But it is also the sign of Saturn's greatest enemy, which is the sun, okay? So things can be a little better for Saturn if Saturn is exalted in Libra, or if Saturn is in Aquarius, which is its Mool Trikona sign. But don't put too much of don't put too much of importance on the other placements of Saturn, except for Saturn in Aries and Saturn in Leo, because in my opinion, or in my experience, these are the harshest signs of Saturn. Okay. And we also need to take into consideration the fact that Saturn gains Digbala, or directional strength, in the 7th house, and it loses its directional strength. That means it becomes Dikshunya in the 1st house. So if Saturn is placed in these houses, that means if it is placed in the 1st house, or if it is placed in the 7th house of the horoscope, then also the interpretation of the aspects will be changed. Okay. And last but not the least, we also need to consider the maturity age of Saturn, which is 36 years. Okay. So if someone is elder than 36 or older than 36, then the result may be more favorable, as it is now a matured energy. Okay. Similarly, if Saturn is retrograde or combust, then it becomes favorable over a period of time, especially retrograde. Okay, from mid-30s, if you have a retrograde Saturn in your chart, from mid-30s it starts becoming favorable. If you have a combust Saturn in the chart, from mid-50s it starts becoming favorable. Okay, now coming to the meat of this video, which is the interpretation of the aspects, right? So since the 3rd house, we'll look at the 3rd house aspect first. Since the 3rd house relates to hard work, relates to effort, so Saturn's 3rd house aspect from its position shows where the person needs to put efforts, where the person needs to work hard with perseverance to make any impact regarding whichever house Saturn is aspecting by its 3rd aspect. Okay. So suppose Saturn is in the 10th house of career and status. So the 3rd aspect goes to the 12th house of foreign lands, foreign settlement, or spiritual matters. So it shows that the person needs to put a lot of effort and hard work with perseverance in matters related to foreign lands, or in matters of spirituality, to gain anything from the 12th house. Okay. Similarly, the 12th house also represents hospitals and jails. So it means that the person has to put a lot of effort to ensure that he or she does not end up in going to a hospital or jail for whatever reason. Okay. So I'm taking the most common significations as examples. Okay. Say Saturn is in the 4th house of mother, mother, home, and peace of mind. So it from the 4th house, the 3rd aspect will be on the 6th house of daily routine, of diseases, illness, deaths, etc. So such a person has to be really, really diligent in his or her workplace and work hard to keep his peace of mind intact. Okay. So what I'm saying is, wherever Saturn is placed, okay, to get fulfillment from Saturn's placement, you have to do the work related to the house where Saturn aspects. Okay. So again, considering the same example, a person having Saturn in the 4th house and that is aspecting the 6th house has to put continuous efforts to keep his debts under control, to enjoy peace of mind, or to enjoy the comforts of his or her home environment. Okay. So it's all about putting hard work with perseverance. And for this reason, some authors have also called it as the hammer aspect of Saturn, because Saturn really hammers the 3rd house from its natal position. Okay. Now comes the 7th house. Okay. So the 7th house aspect of Saturn is about limitations and restrictions. And this shows, this aspect shows that the results of that house will be very limited, and the person would need to be very practical and mature and realistic in dealing with that house in order to gain anything. Okay. So for example, if Saturn is placed in the 1st house of self, of discretion, then the 7th aspect will be on the house of relationships, right? So it means that the meaningful results from relations will be very, very limited. And as a result, the person would need to be very matured and very realistic in his desires, in his or her desires related to relations. And only then he or she can expect some good results coming his or her way. Likewise, the 7th house also represents business or partnerships. So it is very important that such a person takes his business decisions with a lot of proper planning. Okay. He or she cannot or should not take business decisions out of the blue. These people have to be smart enough to study everything regarding current market trends, and only then he or she can expect some profit from business. Okay. And Saturn in the 3rd house, for example, would aspect the 9th house of higher education and gurus. So it shows that the person has to be very disciplined about his or her higher education to gain out of it. Plus in early life, such a person will get gurus who are very strict and will be very hard dealing with them to gain any knowledge. Okay, so such a person has to show a lot of discipline while dealing with gurus and father figures, or while dealing with matters of higher education. Okay, now comes the 10th aspect of Saturn. So 10th house, we know it relates to duties and responsibilities, and Saturn's 10th house aspect shows two things. Number one, it shows where you need to take duties and responsibilities in your life. And it also shows that area, this house, wherever Saturn puts its 10th aspect, it shows that you cannot ignore that house for a long time. Okay. Secondly, it also shows the failure that Saturn brings. Okay. One of the significations of Saturn is failure. So the 10th aspect of Saturn represents your greatest failure, and that greatest failure will happen in terms of a particular signification of that house. Okay. And I've made a detailed video on Saturn and your greatest failure, where I've listed, what failure Saturn brings when his 10th aspect falls on each house of the horoscope. Okay. So watch out that video if you want to get more details as to how, the 10th aspect of Saturn represents a particular type of failure. Okay. Now, taking an example, say Saturn is in the 4th house. So with its 10th house aspect, it'll look at the 1st house of self. So it means that the person has to take responsibility of his own health and psyche. And, if he or she neglects his health, if he or she neglects his psychological buildup, then it can become problematic. It can lead to failure. Okay. Say Saturn is in the 10th house of career, it will aspect the 7th house of business or relationships. Okay, with his 10th house of aspect. So it means that you should not fight with other people, because fighting with other people means that you might lose that battle very badly. Okay. It also means that sooner or later your career will be all about business and dealing and interacting with other people. Okay. So these are the secret meanings of Saturn's aspects. But remember that wherever Saturn sits, it's in whichever houses it aspects, it will always make you work hard and show perseverance related to the significations represented by that house. Okay. So this is just a basic idea of how Saturn's aspects will work in your chart. Saturn has hard work, efforts and perseverance as its consistent themes. Okay, so those themes will always play out in the houses which are which is inhabited by Saturn, as well as which is aspected by Saturn. Okay, so that's it from me in this video. Do share with your friends and family if you find it useful, and do leave behind your feedback in the comment section. That really is very encouraging for me. Okay, so thank you for watching. I'll see you soon with yet another video. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.